Hello and welcome to this video on the Medmont Meridia corneal topographer. In this presentation we'll be looking at TFSQ, which stands for tear film surface quality. So we're going to use a video demonstration of this so that you can see what the features of this function are. So we're going to get this video started. You'll see I click on corneal topographer and then we click on tear film analysis. And we wait patiently for the next box to pop up. And we'll pause here. You can see that this looks very much like the same alignment system that we used for corneal topography. So we're going to be asking the patient to look at straight down the centre of those rings in the cone, and then we're going to align for height, horizontal alignment and distance in exactly the same way as we did before. So vertical green line straight in the middle of the rings and the red line sitting on that horizontal green line. So we'll do that and we'll get ourselves into position, and then you'll see that it's asking us to get the patient to double blink to get the video started. Now this can be a little bit challenging, and that's because we're getting our patient to blink normally because we want a normal tear film before we start, and sometimes they do a double blink, start the video, and then the video stops again when they do the next blink, and that's all before you've had the chance to give them the instructions. The other problem is that sometimes you get the first blink and then you ask the patient to do the second blink and they're too slow and you need to start again. But none of those are great big problems, and you just have some patience and you'll get it started. You can see on the right hand side that we've set the maximum duration of this video to be 15 seconds. You may choose to take that down to 10 seconds because for some patients staring for 15 seconds is an awfully long time. So Chris has done his first blink. We're going to ask him to do his second blink. And I suspect here that he doesn't get it in time, so we're going to ask him to do it again. Exactly that. So now the video has started, so we're getting the patient to stare nice and wide. On the right hand side you can see it capturing those stills that it later builds up into a video to show the tear film. And we'll talk about what that represents in a little moment. But once we get to the end of the 15 seconds, it stops recording and starts saving that data. Gives us a preview again, and we can click next and finish, and it will save those details. Takes a little while to save because it's quite a lot of data, and once it's saved those, we go back through the same process as previously with topography. We need to close this box, and I'm just going to pause here to show you what this first screen tells us. So this still here is from the beginning of the video. Blue areas are areas that are a nice stable tear film. Green is beginning to break up, and red is where the tear film has broken up. You can see we've got a good coverage of blue, but around the limbus, particularly on the right hand side, we've got some breakup, and that's quite normal for breakup to appear first at the limbus. You can also see that we've got this area just below the centre where the tear film has broken up. Over on the right hand side you can see that it gives us an auto TBUT, so auto tear breakup time. Now I don't know about you, but sometimes when trying to measure tear breakup time with a measurement where I have to count, I find it very difficult to decide whether I've hit that threshold for breakup. So I have to repeat the process a few times before I can convince myself to actually assign a time to it. Here the instrument has a mathematical threshold for tear breakup time, and it will give you that breakup on that right hand side of the box, so it takes away that personal guessing game that I tend to play. Where this really comes into its own though is when we get video playback, so let's start that now. So we'll press play, and you can see we can watch a video of it going through the breakup time. The little purple dancing dot at the bottom shows us where in that 15 seconds we are, and you can see how the tear film changes over time. So we'll stop that there. So that's the end of that video, and so you can see that it was a way of showing the patient what their tear film was like. So if Chris was our patient and giving us some dry eye symptoms, we'd be able to tell him that overall his tear film wasn't doing too badly, but he had this one spot that was causing his symptoms. So Chris's tear film is a bit poor, and we could probably do things to improve that, but let's give you an example of where that really comes into its own. So here we have a practitioner who we met at a training day, and she had a lot of dry eye symptoms but no particular signs. She didn't have any staining, and she was managing her tear film breakup and her dry eye by blinking a lot and refreshing that tear film constantly. And this video will show you why she was having to do that. So you can see as the video begins that her tears are broken up before she even starts, and they continue to stay broken up throughout the whole process. This does not look like a healthy tear film, and even to the patient this doesn't look like a healthy tear film. The patient would be able to look at this and see all of that red and realise that there was a problem there, even if they didn't understand the complete process behind it and needed a bit more explanation. But they would know that that didn't look like it was great. The auto TBUT has been given as 2.6 seconds, which is again slightly, is very similar to the one that we saw in the previous video, but you can see that actually it covers a much greater area of the cornea, and therefore this patient is more likely to be symptomatic than my husband was. So you can see that tear breakup in itself is not a great descriptor of how that tear film is formed over the cornea and how it breaks up. So it's great for demonstrating to the patient that their tears are not good quality. It's excellent at showing them how effective a treatment has been. So in this practice, they had a box of hypermellos next to the topographer. They're simply to help get good topography measurements on patients that had drier eyes. So they would just pop in some hypermellos before repeating the measurement. And so we used that. I'm not for a second suggesting that's the best tear substitute or tear supplement that we have available to us, but it's effective for this purpose. So let's watch her video a few seconds after the installation of the hypermellos. So let's watch that get started. And you can see that there's a huge improvement in that tear film. It would be really obvious to this patient that that had made a difference, and hopefully that would tie in with the improvement in their symptoms. So you can also see here that it's not managed to measure a tear breakup time, and that's because actually the tear film was too stable throughout, which again is a really good sign. So imagine that rather than a drop, this was actually you sending the patient away to do hot compresses for meibomian gland dysfunction or blepharitis treatment using lid scrubs. And they come back and their tear film has improved this much. It's a really great way to get them to comply with the treatment and to hopefully continue complying with the treatment recommendations. If they were to stop, it's also excellent at showing them how it has deteriorated again. So they had a poor tear film, the treatment made it better, and now they've stopped and it's got worse again. So we all know that the challenges with dry eye patients are helping them understand that this is a chronic condition and that you can't cure it, but you can continue treatments and hopefully help with the symptoms. So using the TFSQ to do that is the best way, in my opinion, to help them stay compliant. Thank you very much.